It's beautiful. Got to be one of the most attractive batteries I've seen. I know that sounds a little bit weird, but geez, you see some ugly contraptions. Super happy with that. Spring-loaded handles on the side. The Inspire Trust. Another two nice big handles along the bottom there, and another one on.
So welcome to the channel, everybody. In this particular episode, I'm going to show you a full installation and some testing of the Orient Power 6500 watt inverter and one of their 5 kW batteries right here. Now, disclaimer, the folks over at Op Solar sent this over. I'm not getting paid to test any of this equipment or make this video. However, I do get to keep the equipment at the end of it. With that said, we're going to get you an honest review. If we have any issues with installation or any issues with equipment throughout this process, we're going to let you know, because you, the viewers, are what truly supports the channel and makes all this stuff work. So before we dive into the installation here, I'm going to tell you what we have. We have one of the Orient Power 6500 watt inverters here. This can be single phase, split phase, or 3-phase capable. Like I said, it's 6500 watt output, 8000 watt solar input capable. Keep in mind it does have 2 solar string hookups over here, 18 amps each, so 36 amps total. You'll need to work your panels into that in order to try to reach the maximum wattage. So the really cool thing about this one is, well, you can run it as is. You don't even have to add a battery to it for your off-grid capability. This inverter can tie into grid power and can also tie into solar panels. So long story short, what that means is it can use the incoming solar power as first priority and then swap over to grid power all behind the scenes. You can program all that to happen for you. Now, the third option would be the off-grid option. Add as many batteries as you like, whatever you need for your system, and you can set up different priorities into this to where it'll run off of solar power, battery power, and grid as a third, or no grid at all. So you have lots of different options and flexibilities with this system. As far as the batteries go, they're quite affordable lithium iron phosphate batteries here. 5 kW of capacity, and well, you can add just about as many as those as you need to build your system out as well. So the other really good thing about all this is it is quite affordable. I'm going to put some links down in the description if you want to go check out Op Solar for this equipment. It ships out of California, if I remember correctly. Mine showed up on a semi truck, a very small truck, and I was able to offload it. Keep in mind these batteries are well over 100 pounds, like 110 pounds. The inverter is quite light and easy to handle. So if you're looking for an affordable solution and to start building out, well, your off-grid or grid-tied system, you may want to check this video out. I really think it's a lot of bang for the buck. Now, long-term testing, well, that'll let us know if the equipment really holds up. So we're going to do multiple videos, and I'm going to test this stuff for quite a while as well. All right, so something I want to start doing as we test equipment on the channel, let's pop open these batteries, for example, since this is a big part of the cost of a system, and I want to see how everything is kind of laid out and put in here. So I'm going to be careful what I touch, but for starters, I do want to check, make sure all connections are solid. They are. Obviously, here's our main control board. So one of those is going to be our battery management system. I see a communications board down here for all the communication cables. Everything looks halfway okay. The batteries, I want to see the connections on those and how everything looks. I do like this protective cover on here. I don't know if that's standard, but I like seeing any extra protection in case I were to ever drop or smash this in. So here is what the inside of one of these looks like. I'm not going to remove the batteries themselves. I just kind of want to check out the bars, the way everything's tied together. Again, double check connections. Just want to see the overall build quality of this. All right, so there's you a look inside. Chances are you are going to know more about this than me, but just being curious. All right, so what you just seen me hook up right here, if you'll pay attention, there's 6 lugs on the underneath side of this panel. So one side says AC input, the other side is your AC output. A lot of people don't realize inverters like this particular one right here can take AC input from my main panel. This is a smart enough inverter that it can pull grid power in use, or it can use solar or battery storage power when in use. I should also mention this particular inverter doesn't even require a battery. You could have this smart inverter run on grid power, just have solar panels outside, and it can swap over and use the solar power when available, go back to grid power when solar is not available. Or you can have the third option of pulling from battery power and using grid power as a last resort. I really love this system and setup right here. Since I'm starting out with a small battery, but you can see I got plenty of wall space behind me to add more batteries in the future, well, there's gonna be times I'm gonna have cloudy days or just not enough solar input. Well, this will swap over and pull in some grid power, feed my circuits. I'm good to go. I really like the ability of an inverter to do that. Now, I will say you can feed up to, it recommends 4 gauge AC input wire. Honestly, I'm looking in there, that's gonna be an extremely tight fit. 6 gauge is gonna get you right up to the wattage that this is capable of, really a couple hundred watts underneath. Just no matter what size wire you run to feed your inverter, make sure you're putting the proper size breaker in for that. You never want to put too large of a breaker in and then downsize your wire. I've also done so many tests on my shop. I know exactly what my daily wattage pull is, with the exceptions of times that I'm running very large power tools. And the way I'm currently setting this system up, I'm gonna have a significant buffer or surge capacity left in there for those times that I do run very powerful tools. Now in the future, once I figure out my ultimate system I'm gonna put in here, I'm gonna add a sub panel, pull my circuits out of here to that. We're gonna really beef the wiring up, and hopefully we're going to 240 volt or split phase 120 at that time as well. That's why I've left room on this wall over here for another potential inverter and several more of these batteries if need be. All right, so what I'm gonna do now is pull this wire into this main panel. You see I have a white that's gonna go to my sidebar for neutral. I have a ground that's also gonna go to that sidebar because this is a main panel and they're bonded. A sub panel, usually you will separate the grounds and the neutrals. Keep that in mind. And then there's a black hot wire that's gonna go straight to my breaker. So now this can pull in grid power as I program and set it up for whenever I need it to do that. And here are those connections I was telling you about. And if you look underneath and up, right there, it says AC input, line, neutral, and ground. And then here is your AC output that we're gonna hook up to a cord, believe it or not, because I'm doing something a little different. I'll be powering through a transfer switch instead of a sub panel that eventually I'll mount somewhere in that area that I was just telling you about. All right, so now I have my 2-aught cables made up, and I looked in the manual. This is what they suggested for this particular battery setup. On the bottom side, there is a circuit breaker that comes built in these on-the-wall batteries. Make for sure that's in the off position. You want to start connecting cables up to the lugs in here on the inverter and arcing off into sending power. We want to make for sure that circuit breaker's off and it kills the positive load. It's also really nice that they have that circuit breaker built in, so now I don't have to mount one on the wall in between the positive. So these lugs are connected on the inside. We only have to connect to one or the other. The other one is there to jump over to another battery, which hopefully we'll be doing down the road. And then if you look in the inverter, we have red here, black there. So let's make these connections. All right, so pay attention. Underneath here is the output side. This is your AC output. You have a line, a neutral, and, well, a ground right there. Typically, you would wire this up and run out, well, to a sub panel. Don't forget, I'm doing things a little different in this episode. Only we're going to continue to build this system out, but I have to provide power, 120 volt power, to both sides of this box because it's split phase right here, which I can do by jumpering a wire. And this is technically my sub panel for now to all my critical circuits in the shop. The reason I'm doing this is because I'm a review channel. I test a lot of stuff. So I'm actually going to wire this up to a heavy duty cord that I can put in here, and then I can remove that cord for testing other equipment. Now this particular box is rated for 7,500 watts, 1,000 watts more than this unit can provide. So everything is nice and safe here, and I monitor my shop heavily. I don't pull anywhere near that much power on a continual basis. All right, so now I'm about to go through the menu on this inverter right here, and the manual comes with page after page of menu and initial settings that you're going to want to set up. So this Orient Power 6,500 watt inverter here, the nice thing about it, it's an all-in-one unit. It has a 120 amp charger for, well, your battery or multiple batteries. This is also a grid-tied system, as I showed earlier in the video. So I can flip a breaker on in there, and I can program and set this up to work off of grid power when either I don't have enough battery power. You can also set up priorities. I really like that about this system. So this system can run off of prioritized to solar first, which is what I want if I run low on my battery here, and probably will because I need more batteries than this. Well, then it'll instantly swap over without me doing anything to grid power, run through this and output out to the source. I really like that if you're going to stay grid tied. Now you set up your battery type in here as well. These are lithium iron phosphate batteries right here. The voltage, this is a 51 volt system or battery right here as well. You can set this inverter up to run off of rack batteries, your standard batteries. All those settings are in here. You can also set up your voltages, output voltages, input voltages, all that you want to know and go ahead and program in before you start using this system. Keep in mind, this is all smart stuff here. You got a battery management system built in, so you can program and learn and set parameters for temperatures, although it'll already have some of those set. And by the way, up until this point, I've been heavily involved in portable power stations, which is kind of this entire system here wrapped up in a smaller package. Now they're less powerful, they're built more for portability. This is built more for running a structure like this. But I'm very happy to see these batteries right here have some awesome operating temperatures. A lot of people are concerned about lithium iron phosphate batteries because, well, they don't work in sub-freezing temperatures. At least that's what a lot of people think. But here are the parameters on this particular battery right here as well, as far as the temperature performance goes. Discharge temperature has a range of -4 degrees to 140 degrees. That's a huge range and a lot colder temperatures than I was expecting. Although being here in Florida, I'm kind of more concerned about the upper temperatures. This room should never see 140 degrees. Coming up in one of the next episodes, I have some awesome ventilation that's going to be coming on here that's going to be fully automatic and temperature controlled. Charge temperature, that's where people are most concerned. A lot of batteries out there won't work below 32 degrees. This one claims 23 degrees is the low end of allowing it to charge, up to 131 degrees. And it also has a down to 23 degrees storage temperature. This is all in Fahrenheit, by the way. Now, the cool thing is, well, your BMS, your battery management system, is going to monitor all that and cut everything off. This system, once programmed and fully set up, it's all automatic. You don't do anything else, especially if you're grid tied. It's monitoring the battery, it's monitoring the temperatures, it's monitoring output voltage, input voltage, how much wattage are you sending out, how much current there is, if it needs to swap back over to grid. Again, everything is very automatic, a lot more automatic than I even realized. All right, so after going through the manual and doing quite a bit of programming and setting stuff up, you have all these different menus here. We go through and set your parameters of the battery, charging. Again, do I want grid power, having priority, or being used at all? I think I've got it all set up. So you can see the little diagram on here. See the little lines underneath all of those symbols right there? One says MPPT charge controller right there. So it shows that we do have some solar coming in. I have that connected, although it's late in the afternoon. It's showing that we are charging the battery. It's showing it's coming from the battery from DC and then AC over to output. And then I have all different kinds of menus we can go through here to look at the hertz coming from your input. By the way, I can flip that breaker off and kill that at any time that I want to. That's the first set of solar panel menus right there, which I only have one set plugged in to the second output. So there it is, currently getting 114 volts in. It's very late in the afternoon, so not much power coming in at all. There's the amperage coming in from your panels outside, how many watts. We'll test this tomorrow. I'm expecting to get, upwards of 1,200 watts during the day like I normally see. So here's our battery menu. We're currently at 52.8 volts, and you can see that we're also charging right here as well. I have set this up to where solar is first priority to charge the battery, although now that the sun's going down, it'll most likely start charging from the grid. I'll also run a test over the next many days, and then we'll do an update video too where I'll get the system fully charged and we'll run off of strictly solar. I'll kill grid power. We're using 21% output right here. That's because I have a lot turned on in the shop. So look right here, 1.39 kilowatts going in my shop right now. I have lights on, fans on. I also have freezers, refrigerators, window units, all kinds of stuff out here. So 1.3 kilowatts. That's way, and I mean way more than my house uses. But for example, I'm gonna turn the shop lights off right now. Watch what happens. Now we're below 1 kilowatt. My fan out there is pulling several hundred watts. I can go kill it right now. But I want to go ahead and run the entire shop. Once I go in for the night, I'm expecting to continually pull around 300 to 400 watts, keeping those freezers and refrigerators going. And when my window unit kicks off and on tonight, it'll pull an additional 300 watts. All right, y'all, so as y'all can see, it is dark outside. I decided to let this run last night, and it appears that it never had to charge the battery, although you can see we're at very low capacity, currently at 19%. And I have the unit set on to charge back at 15%. The only thing that I have to figure out, it must be the settings that I have in here, how high and how low the battery settings are. This still thinks the battery's quite high. There's also a communication cable I can plug in between the two. Still gotta research that a little. Maybe they'll communicate a little better. But this is looking at a voltage range that this battery gave me in a manual, and it's kind of roughly guessing at battery capacity. Obviously, this is the one I'm gonna trust right here. We'll get all that figured out as we mess with this a little more. But the good news is we ran the shop all through the entire night. I wasn't sure if it would do it or not. And it looks like about the time the sun would come up, we'd be around 15% on this. Problem is they're calling for rain all day today. That's what you experience with solar systems. So this is gonna kick on the grid in just a little bit, charge the battery back up, perfectly fine with that. As I continue to build my system out larger in the future, what I would do is, have more battery capacity to get me all the way through a rainy day like today, and then it could charge up with sunlight tomorrow, assuming we had it. So what I'm hoping to accomplish in the future is enough of a battery power wall over here, maybe a second inverter, to the point that is extremely rare if ever I have to tie into the grid to charge the system up. Well, that's kind of the whole point of solar for most people. Use as little electricity as possible or go completely off grid. You'll just have to size your battery system to do that. Now, the other great news, we ran all through the night. The room is not hot at all, y'all. I'm extremely impressed. There's practically no heat coming out of the inverter, which I don't have it loaded up heavy, and no warnings, no issues whatsoever. So I'm gonna continue to spend some time testing this. It's permanently mounted now, so obviously I'm gonna run this every day. I'm very curious to monitor my energy usage and my electric bill to see how much this reduces the shop. Obviously the ultimate setup would be 2 inverters and more batteries to where the shop is completely off grid should I want it. But no doubt this alone is already gonna knock my electric bill down extensively for the month, because the majority of the usage out here, around the clock usage, is 120 volt equipment. And this is running every critical circuit that I have out here that's gonna pull 120 volts. So that's an excellent deal for 5 kW worth of lithium iron phosphate batteries right here. And I really like the on-the-wall batteries. I know a lot of people are saying, hey, do rack batteries. We have room to test that in here, and we may in the future. But this saves me so much floor space and gets stuff out of the way. Yeah, they're heavy. Yeah, you gotta get them on a wall that'll actually support them, but they don't take up much room. Even if I put 3 more on the wall behind me, I'm not taking up much room space in a small area. All right, I don't know what else to say. The price seems right, the equipment's running. Long-term testing's where we need to be now. I'll release another video in a few weeks. We'll kind of start eyeballing what it's doing for electricity usage in the shop, and then long-term down the road, maybe in another couple months when I get my first real electric bill in, we'll see how much we've knocked the shop energy usage down. We may crunch some numbers. Even though I have relatively affordable electricity here, it's still gonna be nice to see, will this eventually eventually pay for itself. In higher cost areas, no doubt that it will. This stuff's actually quite affordable.